Hey everybody, Mike here. Welcome to the channel. So today we are covering 30 tips on safe hiking, right? Now, as a person with a background in search and rescue and wilderness medicine, I see and hear a lot about things that go wrong, right? And if you go out on a hike, you want to stay safe. So for that reason, we're doing this video. So 30 tips. And without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, first of all, when you're going to go on a hike, you're going to let people know where you're going, when you are going, and when you expect to be back, right? So let your coworkers know, your family, your best friend, your wife, your husband, your partner, whatever, and explain carefully, okay, this is where I'm going to park my car. This is the trail I'm taking. I expect to be back by so and so. I'm traveling alone or with another person, etc., etc., right? Now, the reasons for this, I would say, is pretty obvious, but nevertheless, it is in case you don't show up on the date that you said you would be back, in case there is, I don't know, severe weather going on in the area you said you were going to. People will have a starting point. Where's your vehicle? They will know in what area you're walking. It will help them to find you much, much quicker. So that's tip number one, right? Now, tip number two, don't hike alone if you can help it. A lot of people like to hike alone, but it is not without danger. I mean, you can be the most skilled person in the world. If you slip and fall, hit your head, break your leg, your situation can flip in seconds, right? So, if you are not extremely experienced, I would suggest you do not hike alone. Right, number three. Well, again, I think this is pretty obvious, but nevertheless, study the trail, the map, the terrain features ahead of time. So go on Google Maps, find out information. I don't know, is there a river in that area? Is it dry certain periods of the year? Is there any wildlife to be concerned about? All that kind of stuff, right? So do your homework, make sure you are prepared, and don't just wander off willy nilly and see where you're going to end up, right? Okay, brings me to number four, take note of weather predictions. Now, for obvious reasons, if there is a prediction of I don't know, hurricane, tornado, severe storm, all these kinds of things, you would postpone your trip, right? Fair enough. Okay, number five, take plenty of fresh water, food, something containing sugar, and something containing electrolytes. Um, and again, you would say, yeah, of course, but I have seen many, many situations where people will go hike in a desert, right, and they got one tiny bottle of water. Now, in an environment like that, you would drink something like a gallon a day, right? And you would run into trouble very, very fast. Now, when it comes to food, bring some food that is nutritious, that will actually feed your body. Now, sugar can give you some additional energy. Don't go bring bags full of candy, but maybe one of those dextrose things. And as far as electrolytes are concerned, water is great, but water containing electrolytes will feed your body and keep you on your feet much longer. Okay? Right, number six, stay clear of wild animals. I see people in parks walk up to a bison to take a picture. That is not a very smart thing to do, trust me, right? A bison can flip you through the air like you are a tiny piece of paper. And depending on where you are in the world, if you are, for example, in Africa, this could be a death sentence, right? So be very aware of wild animals. If you know there are wild animals in the area, then take precautions, okay? More about that later. Now, that said, secure food in your campsite properly. Number seven, if you're camping in the wild and you have food on your campsite, then that will attract wildlife, right? So store it properly, hang it in a tree, put it in an airtight container. Don't leave it in the open in your vehicle, and certainly don't leave that open in your tent or whatnot. If a bear comes along, it will rip that tent to shreds to find that food, possibly with you in it. Okay? All right, number eight, know the emergency numbers, who to contact and how. What happens all the time is people will drive to a certain location that they're not familiar with to start their hike. Okay, so what are the emergency numbers in that specific area? Is there an emergency number? Is there, I don't know, a search and rescue facility you can call? I don't know, any information number, all that kind of stuff, right? And keep in mind that if there is a situation where you can't call because you don't have cell reception, you need to have alternatives. For example, an InReach. And I'll put a link below so you can read up on what that is and how that works. Okay. Number 9, stay on the trails. Now, I know a lot of people don't do that, but preferably you would, because if you run into trouble for whatever reason and people need to find you, it's much, much easier to track you down, right? And also, if you go off the trails, you don't really know what you're going to run into. Number 10, wear appropriate clothing, shoes, and so forth. I've seen people literally showing up for a hike wearing flip-flops, right? Not very smart. Or they think, well, okay, I'm hiking in the desert, it's very hot, so I got a t-shirt and shorts. Well, that's great, but keep in mind that if you're going to spend the night, it's going to be freezing cold, and that is just not a good idea, right? And another tip there is avoid cotton. Cotton holds on to sweat quite easily. As a result, you can dehydrate quickly because of air running over your body, and that's never a good idea, okay? Okay, so more about clothing. Number 11, break in your shoes. Don't go out and buy brand new hiking shoes and then plan for a 5-day hiking trip, right? You will be sorry, trust me. Make sure your shoes are well broken in, as they say, yeah? Okay. One more on clothing. Number 12, wear layers of clothing. The temperature can change during the day, right? It can be quite hot. It can become very cold at night. If you wear layers, you can put on more layers or take off layers depending, okay? And that brings me to number 13, avoid sweating. Now, sweating dehydrates the body, obviously, right? But it also cools the body very, very fast. If you are in an environment where there's a lot of wind and you're sweating, then your body temperature can go down at a dangerous rate, okay? So if you have to do labor or whatnot, then pace yourself. Okay, number 14, carry an IFAK and know how to use it. What's an IFAK? That's an individual first aid kit, right? Basically a first aid kit for yourself. Make sure you got essential materials in there, read up on it, watch YouTube videos on it, know what to carry with you, but more importantly, know how to use those items, right? Okay, number 15. Be realistic about your level of fitness. A lot of people overestimate themselves. Oh, I'm fit, I'm young, I can do all that kind of stuff. If you haven't done it recently, then you really don't know, right? And like I said, things can change quickly. Well, you thought it would be great weather, it isn't. You thought it would be warm, it isn't. And there you go, right? Okay, number 16, avoid any type of intoxication while hiking. It can kill you, right? If you are under the influence of drugs or alcohol or whatnot, then the chances of you having an accident while hiking increases a lot. The number one cause of death while hiking is falling, right? Slipping, falling, whatnot. So you want to stay focused. You want to keep your eye on what you're doing, right? If you're in your camp in the evening and you want to drink a beer or whatnot, hey, go for it. But just, be aware of your surroundings. Right, number 17, never underestimate the situation. And people do this all the time. They have a minor fall and they have, a scratch on their leg and it's, a tiny bit of blood, but it's nothing serious. And they decide to continue with the hike and, I'll just wipe it off and it's fine. But they're walking in a subtropical environment. Humidity is crazy high, bacteria everywhere. And literally within hours, you have an infected leg and suddenly it's a life-threatening situation. Okay. Number 18, never overestimate your skills. And this happens, I would say, almost always, right? People think, oh, I can carry that heavy backpack for many, many miles, or I can climb that hill, or I can, and once you find out that you did overestimate your skills, your situation is now in the hands of others because they have to go out and rescue you, okay? All right, number 19, never start late. If you plan on going on your hike at 8 in the morning and it's 10, reconsider whether you're going to do the same hike or whether you're going to do it that day. Why? Because you will probably rush, you will have less daylight to do your hike, you will lose sight of details because you kind of want to catch up on your planning, and that is never a good idea. Okay? Alrighty. Well, number 20, as I already said, falling is a big, big issue for people hiking. And when you're walking downhill, never run, right? That's a recipe for disaster. Okay, number 21, bring what you need, no more, no less. If you're going on a hike, you don't really need your electric toothbrush and your microwave and whatnot, right? But at the same time, make sure you have what you need. Like I said, shorts and flip-flops if you're going to go and hike through the desert, not smart. Okay? Number 22, people that forget things. Make a checklist and check it before you go. Oh, I thought I brought the water. I thought I brought the medical bag, or, whatever. Again, that will be a problem very fast. All right, number 23, never assume. You can call for help. There will be water. There will be a shelter. What if the river dried up? What if the shelter burned down? What if your cell phone is not working? So never assume anything. Okay, number 24, not knowing your gear or how to use it. Now, if you desperately need to use your gear in a situation and you pull it out of your backpack and remove the original packaging, chances are you don't know really how to handle that, and it might cause injury, and it might just not do the thing it's intended for. Okay? Right, number 25, leave your ego in your car, especially when you are hiking in a group and you don't want to be seen as weak or unprepared or unskilled. People exaggerate their skill set, and they don't want to admit that it's too much for them, and then they end up in a situation where others are paying the price. Okay, so check that. Number 26, and that relates to one of the videos I did very recently, that is, leave a boot print on your dashboard. Take a sheet of aluminum foil and put it on the ground, step on it with your boot or boots, and then put that print on the dash of your car. What for? Well, let's say a search and rescue party has to come and look for you. Probably one of the first things they're going to hear is that there's an abandoned vehicle. Now, if they see that on your dash, they know you're hiking, they know your shoe size, they know exactly what track to follow. And if you, for example, have, I don't know, a tiny rock or something, or a scar, a piece of boot sole missing, whatnot, that will make it very distinct, and it will make it very easy for them to follow you. Okay? All right, number 27. Don't drink water straight from rivers or streams, as is. Now, water may seem extremely clear, and you can see all the way to the bottom, and it looks delicious and whatnot. Do not drink it as is. Always prepare it for drinking. Boil it, prep it with chlorine tablets, something like that, right? Because what you can't see is that possibly a mile upriver there's a dead animal in there, right? Or animal feces or whatnot. That can make you sick in a hurry. Right, number 28, careful with fire. Now that's an obvious one, but it's also for your safety. I've heard stories of people that wake up in the middle of the night to find out that their campfire that they thought was out has turned into a blazing fire, and their complete surroundings are on fire, and they have to get out there in a hurry, right? So always be very, very careful. Right, number 29, plan to spend the night even if you're not planning to. So if you go out on a hike and it's supposed to be a day trip, just prepare yourself for an emergency where you might have to spend the night, okay? So make sure you have warm clothing, make sure you have enough food, enough water, and that kind of thing. And then finally, number 30, be aware of hunting season. If you are in an area where there's active hunting going on during hunting season, make sure that you are very, very visible. You can adjust your clothing, for example, by wearing bright orange or something like that. Last thing you want is for people to start hunting you down, okay? So these are my 30 tips on making your hikes a bit safer. That said, thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.